Man, are you guys a glutton for punishment? You just want to keep finding out more about these awesome filmmakers? Well, I'm not going to help. I'm not going to stop you here. Don't tune off. I mean, I got Steven here. He came all the way in from West Valley's Empress Theater just to talk about the movie.
Magna.
Magna. Yeah. It's not even West Valley. It's farther away. It's closer to the Kennecott at that point.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how in the world did you get involved with Empress and made a whole documentary about it?
I didn't even know the Empress Theater existed. I used to work with this woman. Her name is Rachel Sabin, and we stayed in touch even after we both left the company. And we would go to lunch every now and then. And one of these lunches, before we even got our menus, she says, "So I bought a theater." And I said, "Wait, what?" And she said, "Yeah, I bought a theater." And she tells me it's the Empress Theater in Magna. And she starts telling me it was built in 1916. And she tells me about the over 100-year history of this building. It was originally built as a burlesque theater to entertain the miners at Kennecott Copper Mine. Okay? And then over the years, over 100 years, it changed hands many times. It was repurposed many times. All of that is and so many people came through. Generations of people came through the theater. Some people, we interviewed some people who just had this real attachment to the theater because they grew up with it, through its various phases. So I said to her, that's really interesting. I think that's interesting history. You should make a documentary. And she said to me, "Well, when are you going to film it?" And thus started about a 2-year journey into the depths of the Empress.
See, this is why I stopped giving my wife suggestions on things, because then she'll just have me start doing it and my list never ends. So I'll teach you to give a suggestion. Now that you've gone through it, let's talk about the process of making the Empress. It's over 100 years old, so I'm assuming, is it a state landmark?
It is, yeah. Before Rachel bought it, the owner, his name escapes me now, Leo Ware, had it placed on the state and I believe the National Registry. So yes, it is.
That makes it really interesting, because once, I don't know if you guys know this about Utah at all, but once something gets put on the National Registry, you can't change the external facade. And then anything you're going to change on the interior has to be really controlled as well.
Right. So I remember Rachel telling me about some of the renovations they had to go through, and that they had to get specialized contractors that could, as you say, renovate the facade without changing it.
Right.
Yeah. So there was a lot and it's been through so many renovations. Seats were pulled out, seats were put back in, seats were sold. The theater itself has been sold and changed hands many times. Sometimes it went vacant for decades. So it's been a really interesting, and there was another theater in the same town called the Gem, and sometimes they were packaged together and they were sold together.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting look into the theater. But in addition to that, it's a building itself that has a personality.
Yes.
They talk about it as a she. The people that work within the building, there's an organization called the Ochre Hills Performing Arts Alliance, or OPA, and they all talk about it as if the building is a person.
Right.
And that was one of my biggest challenges. I had to come up with a way to transition from decade to decade to decade without just saying, okay, now we're in 1920. Okay, now we're in 1940. I had to come up with a means to transition between decades and time periods and so forth. And so what I did was I came up with a character, the Empress. Because everybody talked about her as a person, I embodied the theater. And then I had to cast someone who could embody these very various decades from 1916 all the way to 2024. So I needed an actress who could be everything.
So how do you go through that process of casting a person to be the spirit of this historical building?
Well, first of all, we were talking about it off camera, that it's a long process, right? It's not just writing a script and then you cast and then you shoot your narrative, right? I had to work with historians. I had to work with the owners. I had to work with people that have owned or touched the building, the OPA people, and get all of their stories. And from those stories, I had to craft the narrative that would be the film, right? This is what we're going to talk about with regard to the film. And what I decided to do was sort of a day in the life. So we started filming in the morning, we ended at night, and so forth. Kind of a day in the life of the theater. And of course, we brought to life the theater with this character. I needed somebody really elegant so that she could embody the early years, the 1960s, the 20s, the 1940s, where you had, long dresses and the hair, the swept hair and so forth. But I also needed somebody that could be a little more modern because she had to transition in the 1970s and a little disco and things like that.
Right.
And of course, she had to be a fully modern woman that could do the 2000s. So I went through a long process and I looked at a lot of models and actresses and so forth. And I'll tell you the funny thing is that the films that I've done, I have always had an idea of who I was going to cast for the lead. Always. And to this day, I have never cast that person.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet you every single actor or actress is thinking, I know that's why I got the role. Thank you. Because we do have a robust industry here of very talented individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them kind of pop out of the woodwork sometimes and surprise us.
That's the thing, is that I always have an idea that I want this person, and then somebody comes along and surprises me. And that person that I had in mind maybe has a bad day, they don't give quite the performance I'm looking for, what have you, right? But somebody comes out of the woodwork, and the person was Dana Moore. And she was just, as she's tall, she's elegant, she was the one person. Here's the thing. In the transitions, she doesn't have a single line. She doesn't speak, right? All of the speaking is done by the people that were involved with the theater, residents of Magna and so forth. So in order to cast this character, I had to have somebody who could really emote with their face and their body. And she was fantastic. And Dana Moore is our Empress.
I find it so interesting when we look at the documentary genre, you have multiple subgenres in documentary. You could almost do like a court case version. Well, anyway, but what you've done here is you've incorporated the narrative with the documentary into the same piece. And you mentioned how time consuming that is. To give people a much clearer idea, how long did this process take to make this film come to fruition?
About a year and a half.
And how long is the film?
It is 24 minutes.
24 minutes for a year and a half of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds fair.
My family might think otherwise. Although, at least one of them was involved in the production, so she's on board.
All right, it's a win.
Yeah.
I'm counting. And now that the film is done,
mm-hmm.
it's ready to be seen by an audience.
Right.
What is your goal with this festival, with it coming here to the Utah International Film Festival?
Well, I'd like to get a good crowd reaction. I'd like it to be well received, obviously. Clearly, we'd like to be nominated within the documentary category. We have some people like myself as director, the editors, so forth, our ensemble cast that we'd like to see nominated. But more than anything, we just hope that it's well received by the community. We know we have a lot of people from Magna, including the mayor, coming for the premiere tonight. And we just hope it's a good representation of what they know.
Mm-hmm. I love that, because what we're seeing is two different communities coming together. We're seeing the community that loves this landmark, that has a lot of memories, personal memories of, their childhood, engaging in the arts, being involved in local theater, sometimes coming and seeing films probably in that theater too. I think it's
Yes.
what it was purpose for at one point. And now we're expanding that into a film community as well. So we're having a blending of families, a blending of community happening here to celebrate the art.
Mm.
And that's just really cool. That is really, really cool. Now, other than showing it here with the Utah Film Festival, what else? How else can people see this movie?
Well, there's a virtual option online through EOFlix. Is that how it's called?
EOFlix, that's right.
Yeah. And we will have that available, I'm sure, when this hits. We'll have links for that. And we'd love to get it seen far and wide. I'm sure that it'll probably have more of an appeal within state, but anyone that's interested in a really interesting building and its impact on the surrounding community, I think they'd really like this film.
I would love to see Empress at the Empress. That would be pretty dang cool.
Mm-hmm.
When the building's ready to show something like that, that would be pretty cool.
Well, we do have plans for that. I know that OPA wants to show the film there, and who knows, maybe the community might have a few showings. But this is our premiere. We're very excited and very thankful to be in.
Very excited to have it as well.
Very, very thankful to be in this film festival, and this is my second time. I was nominated for a narrative screenplay. I was a finalist, and so yeah, we're happy to be back.
Wonderful, and hopefully you're back many more times. Maybe not have to put a year and a half in a project and have your family suffer and not have you around for a year and a half because of it. But
is there even a short film that goes less than a year? I mean, these are crazy.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, we were talking about again off camera. We were talking about how much work goes into making a documentary. And it's extraordinary. It's good 4 or 5 times minimum versus making a narrative.
Well, and very well the months, years of preparation that go into a feature film.
Yes.
To get 90 minutes.
Right.
It's crazy how much time and effort and the amount of manpower that goes into it.
Yes.
That the film that the viewing community just sees as, well, it was good or bad.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's all your audience is going to be thinking about.
Sure.
But what are you going to be thinking about when you're in the audience?
I'm going to be, I'm going to be thinking about, is the lighting right? Is the sound good? Did this person hit their line or not? Oh, yeah, everything.
I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to challenge other filmmakers who watch this. When you go to a film festival and you're watching it, don't look for the critical things. I want you to put yourself out there like an audience member who's seen it for the very first time. Don't look at the picture and say, oh, that has a weird effect because it's on an LED screen, which you might do. Or that sounds more enhanced because I'm in a room that's been calibrated versus hearing in my speakers. Because that could also be true. But sit there as an audience member and say, how did I feel watching this movie? Did I like it? Was it good?
I do watch films. I just came out of a block of more emotional films.
Yeah.
And I did feel, watching these films and so forth. Earlier, I was participating in a table read.
Yeah.
And there was one particular film. Yes, I'm listening to it, and I'm listening to the pacing and so forth, and I'm visualizing it in my head. But as a director, I'm thinking, okay, now you you pan across, you push in on this character.
Right.
So yeah, but it was but there are some really talented people, and it's fun to be in this community.
It's true. I 100% agree. We have a great community. I'm glad you're a part of it.
Thank you.
And glad that you're able to have your premiere with us. Guys, Empress is here at the Utah International Film Festival. If you can't catch it in person, it is on EOFlix for a limited time. And then hopefully many other places as well.
Yep.
Stephen, thank you so much. Guys, we have more amazing filmmakers lining up today to come and talk to you guys. So keep watching.